Chapter 4. Dungeon Blues. Present day, later. Scream, you elven dog. West hammered Dirk several more times in the gut. The cracking of bone could be heard echoing down the halls of the prison as the beating continued. I wouldn't dream. Cough of it, Dirk coughed up more blood as he tried to form a smile on his bruised and bloody face. West motioned to the onlooking guard, who proceeded to lift the battered elf up to eye level of the angered soldier. He strained to look through his one remaining good eye. The other one was swollen over as pus dripped down his face. I've had enough of your stench. West spat the words out in disgust. Get him out of my sight. West slammed his fist into Dirk's stomach, causing him to finally black out. West turned and exited the room as the guard dragged the limp body to a nearby cell. Val stood by the door of his cell, wondering if the sudden silence was a good thing or a bad thing. Surveying his surroundings, Val sized up his situation. Well, no way out, except through the reinforced door which I entered through. Might as well bide my time and think up a plan. With that, Val laid down, and after about 3 minutes of careful planning, he zonked right out in the bed. Val never was one for heavy thinking. A scream awoke Val from his slumber. Looking around, he noticed that the door to his cell was wide open. Hello? Val softly called out. His voice was met with an eerie silence that ran chills up and down his spine. Cautiously, Val moved in the direction that the scream emanated from. Valentine Koroth, a familiar voice came from the shadows before him. Dirk? Yes, Valentine, it is I. Dirk seemed to materialize from out of the darkness right before Val. Only it seemed that he was missing the extra oomph that usually radiated from his muscles. Dirk stood before his brother, seemingly unscathed from the beating Val had heard earlier. So, what's your secret, Dirk? Val inquired. How did you get here so fast? I mean, wow, there isn't even a bruise on you. Val started circling the other, looking to find some trace of the beating. Dirk smiled a smile that seemed to run shivers down the back of Val's spine, all the way to his left pinky toe. I could bore you with the petty details, my dear brother Valentine. Dirk started to walk towards Val, but I think it would be far more interesting if I showed you instead. Dirk escorted Val down the hall toward the interrogation room. As they got closer, the stench of blood and death got stronger and stronger. The two of them stopped at a closed door. The light of a torch lit up Dirk's face, allowing Val to see something that had been eluding him until now. Dirk, why is your face so pale? You didn't kill everyone, did you? The smile that was on Dirk's face moments ago returned with a vengeance. The sick and twisted smile bared teeth this time. They were more like fangs than anything else. Gee, Grandma, Val spoke with some fear in his voice. What great big teeth you have. The better to eat you with. Val swallowed hard. I was afraid of that. Like a flash of lightning, Dirk threw Val into the closed door as if he was but a mere pebble. The door burst into splinters as Val's limp body crashed onto the floor. Val tried to scramble to some sort of safety or a shelter of sorts, but all that was in the room were several lifeless bodies twisted and tortured beyond recognition. Val looked up to see Dirk looming overhead. His right eye seemed to start glowing red. Resistance is futile. As Dirk spoke, he grabbed Val in a one-handed stranglehold with a grip of solid steel and promptly bit down on Val's neck. Blood splashed out as his neck was turned into the latest in midnight snacking. The world before him faded to black. The blood drained from his body, leaving nothing more than a fainting scream echoing down the halls. What has happened to good old Dirk? Is him really a vampire? Or some sort of monster that bites helpless victims in their necks so that they can suck their blood and drink it all up so that they can live and live on forever? Or is him a vampire? We'll find out next time as the great and legendary Val and Dirk adventure continues. Val woke up screaming like a little girl who just saw a mouse or possibly a spider, or some sort of other scary type bug creature thing that would in turn scare a little girl, or possibly a very feminine man. Val quickly snapped out of his horrific screams of pure and utter terror and sat up. Okay, that was quite possibly the most terrifying nightmare I have ever dreamed up, Val said to himself as he surveyed his surroundings. All the bordering walls were made of heavy gray stone, and on one of the walls there was a heavy, steel-reinforced wooden door. One inept guard patrolled the hall in front of Val's cell. Thinking to himself, I think this could call for a well-placed seizure. Val hit the floor in the act of making a seizure. What's this? What's all that racket in there? The guard peered into the cell. Seeing Val on the floor, you okay in there? What's going on? Val stammered his speech. Nothing at all. Doing quite fine actually. How you doin'? Saliva curdled forth from his mouth, pulling on the ground beside him. The guard hurried with the lock, fumbling with his keys one after another until he finally opened the door to Val's cell. You'll be all right. Just hold on and I'll get you to one of those doctor-type people. He positioned himself over Val's convulsing body, trying in vain to hoist him up. Spotting the moment he was waiting for, Val used his head to attack. He slammed his forehead into the guard's face and then added a swift kick in the junk, followed by a roundhouse to his face. The poor and battered, stupid, pathetic, inept guard slammed hard to the floor and passed out. Ow, my head you son of all the... Val exclaimed as he slammed his foot into the guard's stomach. How do you like that, huh? With that, he fled out of the cell, off to freedom, glorious and sweet freedom of the hallway. We now come to find our troublesome Dirk lying motionless on a bed, one of many beds in the prison hospital ward. Dirk slowly began to stir out of a dark sleep, pain clouding his mind like a thick fog. Shaking off a cold sweat, Dirk forced his eyes open, only to find himself peering into the eyes of an angel. Wow, I made it to heaven. I knew it. All that stuff wasn't my fault. Just one bad accident after another. A tear crept into his right eye as one dripped from his left. Slowly the fog lifted from his mind as Dirk started to put a memory of the face that greeted him at those pearly gates. Silly Dirk, you're not dead. And this sure ain't no heaven either. The girl smiled down at him as she finished her last suture. You sure look a lot like Lorraine, a girl I met not too long ago. I believe she said she worked in the castle. Trying to move his arm, Dirk found that it wouldn't budge. His body was firmly strapped to the bed, forcing him to lie still. A man in blue scrubs, wearing a doctor's coat, approached just out of Dirk's line of sight. Hello, Lorraine. So how's our patient doing today? I see he's starting to move back into the realm of the conscious. He's doing much better, Dr. Holliday. He'll be recovered in no time. Good. They're expecting him as soon as he's ready to walk again. I'll leave you to your pleasantries. With that, the doctor left the room. Now that the two of them were alone, Lorraine took her place at Dirk's side again. Loosening the restraints one by one, the nurse leaned in close to Dirk and slipped something into his hand. You'll need this in a bit, sugar. Dirk stole a good look around at that very moment. Just smiling as she continued to loosen his restraints. You know, hun, y'all got yourself into a pickle this time. Her voice was soft but direct. Quick now, you don't have much time. Down the hall to the right about 10 feet or so is a door to the stairs. Being the hospital ward of the castle, there isn't much security around here. A familiar voice could be heard echoing down the hall barking orders at the hospital staff as West approached Dirk's room. His cane making an audible kertink as it kissed the floor repeatedly. Glancing at the door, Lorraine jerked her head back to stare at Dirk. Her expression said it all, deer caught in headlights. Dirk gave a reassuring smile as he gave a quick recheck of the room. Don't worry, sunshine. Just remember to scream. With that, Dirk closed his eyes and laid still. The door to the room swung open with a loud crash. This is the point in the story where West makes his entrance, one that could wake the dead. "All right, Doc, how's the patient doing?" "All healed up, I hope, so I can do him hurt again." West rolled like a freight train over to where Lorraine stood beside Dirk's bed, his sword clattered at his side, salivating for a taste of fresh blood. "Good day, Captain West," Lorraine said. "He'll need a couple more hours to fully recover." Lorraine took the captain by the shoulder and led him from Dirk's bedside, quietly talking to him. While this was all going on, Dirk was busy cutting his restraints with the shiv that Lorraine had slipped him. Not wasting any time, Dirk bolted to his feet, looked straight at West, and gave a quick shout, "So long, copper." He quickly gave the angered captain a salute and an equally quick bow to the nurse. "Nice to meet your acquaintance, Missy," Dirk said with a smile. As Dirk had stood up, Lorraine had understood that this was the part where she screamed, so scream she did. If you're a fan of screams, well then this was one for you. The scream was so deafening, so shrill, that it could be heard all the way down to where Val had been doing his thing. Only this further to confuse him more. Before West had time to react, Dirk leapt from bed to bed over to the closed window. With a loud crash, Dirk slammed through the stained glass, hurtling through the air like a discarded cat flung from a catapult. West approached the window. As a smile graced his face, laughter bubbled forth from the depths of his cold heart. "Dumbass needs to learn to look before he leaps." Dirk saw the smile on West's face as he somersaulted into space. As the realization crept into Dirk's mind, it was already too late. The 5-story fall had already begun. 5 stories up, out of control. How do y'all reckon he gets himself out of this one? He might have a hard head, but he's gonna need more than that to walk away. Y'all just sit back and watch.